The battle of the sexes, a tale as old as time. We've all heard it. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. They're different planets, different species even. This idea of difference often morphs into something more: competition. Men vying for power, women for attention. It's a familiar narrative, but is it true? Are men and women doomed to forever be locked in a battle of the sexes? It's tempting to see the world in black and white, in his and hers. But life, like language, is full of nuance. To understand this so-called battle, we need to dig deeper. We need to look at how history, culture, and even our own psychology shape the way men and women interact. This isn't about declaring a winner or loser in this so-called war. It's about understanding. It's about recognizing the forces that drive us apart and finding ways to bridge the gap. It's about moving beyond the battlefield and building a future of understanding and cooperation. History's shadow, how we learn to compete. For centuries, men and women have occupied separate spheres, each confined to their own roles and responsibilities. Men in the public domain, the breadwinners, the decision makers, the ones who shape the world outside the home. Women relegated to the private sphere, the homemakers, the caregivers, nurturing the family and managing the household. These roles, ingrained over generations, weren't just descriptions, they became expectations, limitations, even defining what each gender could or couldn't do. Think about it. For much of history, men held the reins of power, steering the course of societies and nations. They controlled resources, made the laws, and wrote the narratives that shaped our world. Competition, for them, became a way of life, a means to climb the social and economic ladder, to assert dominance and achieve success.
Women, on the other hand, were often pitted against each other in the marriage market, their social standing tied to their marital status, their worth judged by their ability to secure a husband and bear children, their identities often overshadowed by their roles as wives and mothers.
Even as times have changed, the echoes of these historical roles still reverberate, influencing our modern lives in subtle and overt ways. We see it in the persistent gender pay gap, a stark reminder of the value still placed on male labor over female labor, in the underrepresentation of women in leadership positions, where glass ceilings still exist. In the subtle and not so subtle ways, society still tries to define what it means to be a man or a woman, boxing individuals into predefined roles.
This isn't to say that progress hasn't been made. It has, and it continues every day with each step forward. It has, and it continues every day as more and more people challenge these outdated norms and work towards equality. But to truly dismantle the battle of the sexes, we need to acknowledge the weight of history, the deep-rooted biases that still linger. Understand how it continues to shape our perceptions, our interactions, and our opportunities, and actively work to create a more equitable future where competition is fair and opportunities are equal for all.
Wired for rivalry, the psychology of gender battles. Are men and women hardwired to compete with each other in various aspects of life? Some point to evolutionary psychology as a key to understanding this dynamic. Men, driven by a biological imperative to spread their genes, are often seen as naturally competitive and aggressive. Women, on the other hand, are said to be more selective in their choices, seeking partners who can provide stability, protection, and resources for their offspring.
But here's the thing about evolutionary psychology. It's a lens, not a definitive answer. It can offer insights into our behaviors, but it can also be used to justify existing power structures and societal norms. The truth is, human behavior is far too complex to be reduced to simple biological imperatives alone.
What we do know is that our brains are incredibly adaptable and capable of change. We learn from our environment, from our experiences, and from the people around us, from the messages we receive from the world around us, including media and culture. If we're constantly bombarded with images of men and women locked in competition, if we're taught from a young age that we're fundamentally different and must compete, then it's no wonder that these beliefs become self-fulfilling prophecies, shaping our interactions and expectations.
The question then isn't whether we're wired for rivalry, but whether we choose to let those supposed wires dictate our behavior and interactions. Can we rise above the supposed biological imperatives and choose collaboration over competition in our daily lives? The answer, I believe, is a resounding yes. We have the power to shape our own destinies.
From playground to boardroom, competition in action, the battle of the sexes isn't confined to some abstract realm. It is a tangible part of our daily experiences. It plays out in our everyday lives, from the playground to the boardroom. Think about children's games and how they reflect broader societal norms. Boys are often encouraged to be rough and tumble, to dominate the playground. They are pushed to be active, assertive, and competitive. Girls, on the other hand, are encouraged to be more cooperative, to share and take turns. They are often guided towards nurturing and collaborative activities. These early messages, often subtle and unintentional, lay the groundwork for how we view competition later in life. They shape our perceptions and behaviors in profound ways.
Fast forward to the workplace, and these early lessons manifest in significant ways. We see men more likely to negotiate for higher salaries, to interrupt in meetings, to exhibit traditionally masculine traits of assertiveness and dominance. They are often seen as natural leaders. Women, on the other hand, may be less likely to speak up, to assert their authority, to be seen as bossy or aggressive. They often face a double bind.
These disparities aren't necessarily intentional or malicious. They are often the result of long-standing cultural norms. They often stem from unconscious biases, from deeply ingrained societal expectations about how men and women should behave. These biases are learned early and reinforced over time, but the impact is real, contributing to the gender pay gap, to the underrepresentation of women in leadership positions, and to the perpetuation of the very stereotypes we're trying to dismantle. Addressing these issues requires conscious effort and systemic change.